to have this handed out. Sorry, here, thank you. This is an article that I did not have in a electronic format, so I wanted to give to you from a biblical archaeology review called "Love Your Neighbor as Yourself" by Abraham Malamat. This goes way back. This article does. Were you able to get that?
I just turned it off right before you said it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wait a minute.
Timing is everything.
I wanted to show you the translation that. So somebody read me your translation of verse 23, Leviticus 19:23. Who has a translation of Leviticus 19:23 they could read for me?
I got it, Brent.
Okay, go ahead.
When you come into the land and have planted all the fruit of it, you planted all of the fruit trees, then you shall expose its foreskin, its fruit, it shall be uncircumcised.
There we go.
3 years.
Yeah, it says uncircumcised twice. That you shall count them, their fruit is uncircumcised, and
It shall not be eaten.
yeah, both times it says uncircumcised. And I noticed the translation that was up here had something not even close to circumcision or uncircumcised on the ESV. Thought that was interesting how, huh? Yeah, forbidden, it is forbidden. But it actually says it is uncircumcised. So the text actually says, you shall count their fruit as uncircumcised. 3 years it shall be as uncircumcised to you.
Whoa,
So,
that's
which is interesting.
yeah.
That language, here we go, so if you go to 23,
It is tainted here.
it's your guy. 23. All right. Here we go. When you come into the land and plant any kind of tree food, that you shall regard its fruit as forbidden. 3 years it shall be forbidden to you. But actually forbidden is uncircumcised. Yeah. So, I just think it's a little, it is forbidden, to be sure, but I like the idea of saying uncircumcised. I don't like that translation. Had I been on the translation committee, I would have said, no, we're not going with forbidden. It says uncircumcised, we'll go with uncircumcised. Because that's what the text says. Now that's interpreted, and that's correct in the interpretation. It is forbidden, but
It's not as drastic.
it says uncircumcised. Okay.
Yeah, when you plant a fruit tree, you're not going to get anything off it for 5 years.
Right, which is another good.
So he actually makes it pretty easy on us.
It makes it very reasonable. All right. I gave you in electronic format the thematic and verbal parallels between Yaakov, it's Yaakov, not James, but three of the texts that I gave you got left off the sheet. I'll give you those if you would like it later on. It was the handout called the thematic and verbal parallels between Yaakov and Leviticus 19. It's interesting that Martin Luther called James, Yaakov, he called it a right straw epistle. He didn't like the book of Yaakov. What's interesting is the book of Yaakov is built off of two things. Don, I don't like this thing at all.
I'm just keep talking, you could be all right.
All right. It's got all this verbal
Just stick your
rebound.
head in a garbage can.
I know, it's looking like a can.
That's why I wanted you to put it on earlier, so we can,
Oh, okay.
so now we're on the fly.
So the book of Yaakov is built off of two things. It's built off of the book of James, Yaakov, and it's also built off of the Sermon on the Mount, which ironically, you get Leviticus 19 orbits, I point this out, orbits around the 10 Commandments, the 10 words. So it's interesting how you have the 10 words, and then you have the Yeshua talking about the 10 words in the Sermon on the Mount, and those become the basis for the book of Yaakov. So I can understand why Luther didn't like it. It had too much Leviticus in it. In fact, I give you the 7 quotes from it, and then also 3 others that I put a question mark around. This is what you would have gotten electronically. Those of you that don't get the electronic version, let me me know, I can put you on the list, and then you'll start getting everything that everybody gets electronically.
So when young folks go to shul and they are studying in yeshiva, what's the first book they normally study?
Leviticus. Yeah, Leviticus is the first book. It has so much to offer us, and I think it's a great text.
Is that their form of studying paper?
Their form of Shakespeare. Yeah, their form of Shakespeare.
So when we get to the rest.
All right, so I want to read from my notes for a moment, and then we'll go to the text. Leviticus 19 is an interesting chapter, both for its structure and content, as well as its placement within Leviticus. Chapter 19 is wedged between chapters 18 and 20 that both deal with forbidden sexual partners. I used to joke that when I spoke at another shul, we were assigned portions to speak. And invariably, I would get chapter 18, my colleague would get chapter 19, I would get chapter 20. And so I swore the people coming thought, this guy just talks about sex all the time. It's like, but there's a lot of sex in the Bible, as it turns out. You know, it's just the way it works out. There is a lot about that. Chapters 18 and 20 deal with those forbidden relationships. However, two motifs govern this chapter, and the first is the phrase, if you notice it 14 times, either I am the Lord your God, or the shorter version, I am the Lord. And actually the phrase is about 16 times, chapter 19. Okay, appearing in verse 2 and in verse 37. And I argue that it's a shorter form of I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. Okay, so that if you go to Deuteronomy, Exodus 20, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land to be your God. So the second motif governing this chapter is holiness. The Hebrew word kadosh means to be set apart for service to God, with the idea of exclusivity built into the concept. And one final observation before we dive in is Leviticus 19 seems to orbit around the 10 words or commandments as found in Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5. So you have Exodus 20, Deuteronomy 5, and then Leviticus 19 also seems to delve into the 10 words and to function around them as well. So let's go to verse 1. Let's read through this. It says this, And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Okay. So, the fundamental character trait of our God is holiness. He is completely other, and He asks us to sanctify ourselves by becoming holy too. Be holy even as I'm holy. And how do we sanctify ourselves? One of the purposes of the Torah is to bring sanctification to our life, to set us apart unto Him. Verse 2, he says, verse 3, Everyone of you shall revere his mother and his father. And then notice how it weds it with, and keep my Sabbaths. I am the Lord your God. So we've asked this before, but let's ask it again. What does it mean to honor or revere your father and your mother? Notice mother and father. And here it actually switches and puts the mother in front. Revere your mother and father. What does that mean? Yes, ma'am.
Put them on a pedestal?
Put them on a pedestal?
Respect and
Oh, okay, so let's stop there for that. Let's ask this question. Do we give everyone, I'm asking, do we give everyone respect?
Yes.
we should.
We should. I would argue we should. Now here's the question though. Just because we give everyone respect, does that mean we give everyone our trust? No. No. And here's the other issue. What if your mother and father, and we have had those, believe me, what if we have mothers and fathers who are not respectable? Who do things that are disrespectful to their children? So then how do you revere them or honor them? And I'm going to make the argument that whatever your parents did to you or didn't do to you, whether they were abusive, neglectful, in whatever way that they treated you, you still have to honor them, and that means this. As we go through the text, you'll see this, that you have to provide them with basic life necessities to get them through. While you're in their home, you honor, you obey them, unless they're asking you to do something illegal, immoral, or unethical. And after you are out of their home, you provide them with the basic life necessities, so that the basic life necessities that they gave you growing up: food, clothing, shelter. And that doesn't mean the best food, and the best clothes, and the best shelter, but it simply means that they have enough to live.
I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah. I want the best for you. No, yeah, obviously, if you can provide them with niceties, that's nice. But it's not required, other than it's food, clothing, and shelter, the basics. Yes.
Well, I think that, you know, just as a foundation, that's something that that people should do. Unfortunately, because of the sins of our society, it's affected everybody. But I think that it's important to realize that we have to have that we have to learn that we do have to respect people and provide for them, because our society is really in need of that. And because if you do the contrary, everything's all messed up. So it's a framework we have to live by.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one and two, good.
Me?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, in my translation it says you shall fear.
Yeah, you can translate it.
And I mean, I think it's in the same way that you're supposed to fear God.
Right.
Because he can take your life at any moment.
Right. And in fact, it's interesting you say that. It's interesting you say that because I think that if parents are what they're supposed to be, the same as a child learns to fear their parent, that is to obey them, they will learn to fear and obey God. And I've always said it this way too, that if you watch how a child will fear a parent in the sense of obedience to them, the more that they're willing to submit to the parents, the more they're willing to submit to God, usually. Not always, but oftentimes it works out that way. And so, parents are that liaison between God, and if children learn to fear the parent and to obey them, trust them, then have less time distrusting God.
So we teach our children consequences for their behavior.
Absolutely. Just as he does. Yeah. Henry, go ahead.
You have probably some of us, their parents never provided anything. There's a whole different set of issues you have to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There are those types of situations, and I think in those situations, again, I don't think you have to, notice what the Torah doesn't say. I want to make sure that, go to this. It doesn't say love your parents. It doesn't say respect your parents. It does say fear, and it does say honor. And the way you honor them is by treating them as a human being, even when they didn't treat you like a human being. And that may mean, that means the food, the clothing, the shelter to get them through life. All, that's it. Okay.
Only by the grace of God that you're able to do that.
Yeah, and that's only by grace of God thing. Look, I told you guys this, and I struggled with this. You guys some of you won't remember this, so I'm not even going to mention the name. Not that that's important. The most fundamental betrayal you could ever have between a parent and a child. I mean, that's the closest bond you ever get. You should have, as a parent and a child. And a child should inherently, intuitively trust a parent. Mm-hmm. Above anybody else, they should intuitively trust a parent. So I have an individual who is currently incarcerated, and I used to have conversations with him before he got incarcerated, and he did the most, in my estimation, the most vile and most despicable thing a parent can ever do. And that is to molest a child. You're his own children. And I can't even get my mind wrapped around that. That's an extreme violation of the worst kind. Because they should trust you to protect them from that. And yet, you are the perpetrator of that. That's to me the grossest violation of trust. Now, can it be forgiven? Yes. Okay, it can be forgiven. God can forgive.